over time, one has moved from association or attachment with the product to attachment with the process. Because there will never be a perfect product. This one has come to understand. But the process can always be perfect.
Welcome to another episode of ContraMinds. In this edition, we have a very special guest, Malaksingh Gill. Malaksingh Gill is one of India's leading architects. Malaksingh is inspired by environment and culture responsive designs. He practices his profession inspired by local, alternative building materials, construction techniques, and crafts. He was inspired by the great Laurie Baker, and he's been working on propagating Baker's vision all across India. Today, he talks to me about the importance of meta-discipline in learning, how he applies that to his own craft and teaching methods. Over to my conversation with Malaksingh Gill. Malaksingh, thank you very much for joining my podcast. It's my privilege to have you as a guest today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you.
Thank you, Mr. Swaminathan. The privilege is mine.
Malaksingh, I want to start off with a key question that I have is your learning and unlearning when you were with the great Laurie Baker. What did you discover and what were your learnings out of that stint?
Well, working with Bakerji, the first learning was to understand from the man himself that, it is not about your knowledge and your skill as much as it is wisdom and as much as it is about how you live your own life. Then you practice and people may emulate you. But the main thing is that how you are conducting yourself and, leading by example. The other technological aspects and also, managerial aspects which I learned with Bakerji was that the whole team was like a family. I was an outsider who had gone to Kerala. I did not know the language. But they were, they just tried to understand how passionate I was. And once they realized that I was very, very serious about the field, because they get people from all over the world coming there to, train under them. But they felt that I had some seriousness about taking this forward. So then they accepted me like family. And that atmosphere was a very, very important thing which I learned that it was possible in an architectural practice. The other important thing I learned or unlearned is, this difference which is there between in your guild where you are an architect and then you design in an office and give instructions to a contractor who further gives instructions to a mason who further gives instructions to a helper. Now, two things I unlearned here. One is that you may have to start from the bottom of this pyramid to be able to become a better designer. Because if you don't know how the materials behave while working with them, how the dynamics of cooperative working is there on the field, you may not be able to evolve the designs and details accordingly. The other thing is the entire cross-learning, between all these divided sections of the working team is of very, very high value. It also taught us how to respect the last worker in the team. And also the other way around. So I got a lot of reciprocation of respect and a lot of love from the last worker. So one folded up your sleeves and worked with them in the field like a mason, like a worker, so that one learned, but then they also respected that gesture immensely and they shared their knowledge. So a lot of learning, unlearning happened there. The other unlearning which was very important was that, you may learn from books, you may learn from drawings. but construction is an act, and it has a very high value to the designing process, which is just a drawing. When you are working with your hands, then the being in the act of it opens your mind to many possibilities, to the actual difficulties of the work, and then you become a much more skilled and sensitive designer when you go back to the drawing table. It also keeps you physically and mentally fit. So there were so many unlearnings and learnings compared to the way I was, visualizing architecture in my formal education in the city.
Is it also not great that when you start working, some of these points that you made become real, because you have to work with diverse teams, you have to work with diverse clients. I'm sure those learnings are also something that outside the architecture profession, I'm sure these learnings are also very relevant, right?
Oh, definitely. Architecture, by its one of its definitions, is a meta discipline where it involves various kinds of resources to be activated. It's not just your intelligence, wisdom, designing skill, but understanding and getting people on your side, being able to talk to them, getting information, understanding the social and the economic conditions of the people whom you are designing for, being aware of the political setting in which you will be designing. All these, interactions happened when I was working in the field. And because of that, it helps you to apply this everywhere. It's a common thing, any field you are in. So, which is why, what I have done amazes practitioners in medicine, amazes, practitioners from various fields, engineering or, even education. So, they find all these generic values extremely helpful when, I discuss my work with them.
Your philosophy of learning in the field through observation is something which is caught my attention. Can you tell me how have you applied it in your work in different projects? How did you kind of use the art of observation in actually running and building that project and thinking about that project?
Right. So, look, observation. The benefits of observation are straight away that you can learn from other people's success and their failures, so that you can avoid repeating the failures in your own practice. So, I'll give you a classic example. We were doing a project for a retired engineer who took voluntary retirement to start farming in a village in Vidarbha near Wardha, and that area is the hottest part of our country. Now there is this black cotton soil which is excellent for farming, but is one of the most dangerous soils for building. The gentleman he purchased a plot before he came to me, and that was in the field, and he had this conception of building a house in the farm. Now we have the ritual of going and observing and doing recce trips to study the vernacular or the regional the knowledge in the regional architecture. When we did that trip, we realized that nobody in that region builds in the farm because of particularly the nature of the soil, and they all choose as a community they choose settlements to build on certain higher grounds where geologically that is a laterite soil plateau, which is slightly higher than your floodplains where all the black cotton soil accumulates.
Okay.
So the higher platforms are good for building, and the lower platforms, the lower floodplains are full of black soil, so you can farm there. So we informed the client about this situation, and the client was first reluctant. and said that, no, Malaksingh, I have seen many examples of urban people who have gone and settled in the farm. So we will build a house in the farm. It's okay if you are recommending against it. We will get it done by our own architect, by someone else. So as soon as the monsoon, approached, they made a visit to their farm for some work, and they realized that they could not even walk in the farm because of the black cotton soil. They couldn't even make it to the center of their farm. And then they realized that what I had said was right. Then I used satellite imagery to draw cross sections from a simple tool like simple app like Google Earth. And I showed them that every settlement in that region was always made on a higher topography, and nobody had built their houses in floodplain. And then they realized, and then they invited me to visit that place and scout for the right land for them to buy and then build a house over there. So then, we were successful. We did that, and and the building came out beautifully. Another example in the same place was they had an issue with putting clay tiles on the roof. And their worry was very simple. They said that we are doing farming and the monkeys will come and jump on the roof, as local people had told them. So the tiles will break. So, we will not put clay tiles, which means that one would have to use something like asbestos or tin sheets, which are not good for the health or the environment. So again, based on because I realized that this must have been a problem and, people must have tried to solve it. So I looked at, roofing details. Right from China to Southeast Asia, people have been doing this. They actually put a layer of mud under their tiles. Above the wooden framework, they put this same expansive black soil as a layer above their wood and below their tiles, so that one is that this mud, if the water falls through the tiles on the mud expands. There's extremely high expansive coefficient, and it blocks the gaps for any further water to come down. So the mud itself becomes a waterproofing. It gives excellent thermal comfort because it keeps the house inside super cool in a very high temperature. And the very important aspect, what it does is that if monkeys come and jump on the roof, now it's not hollow anymore under the tiles. You have filled it with mud, so the tiles don't break. So this was observed in a region, in a district very close to this, in Nanded, not very far from here. So, we learned that, and it's also done in China. So we just learned that and applied it over here. So here was another example of how, one can probably solve difficulties or challenges by observing what others have done.
I just want to, pull back to a statement or a word that you used. You talked about architecture being a meta-discipline.
Yes.
Can you kind of explain it further by saying, what does it mean and what are the components of meta-discipline as a subject?
When a field is dependent on many other factors, it does not remain a single discipline by itself. I'll give you an example. When we say, there is this very popular scheme now called Awas Yojana. Now it is a Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Now this Yojana gives money to people to make pakka houses. And this to the economically weaker sections in villages. It just gives the money and tells them that you have to make pakka houses with this money. Now what happens is when the people make the pakka house, then what is ensured is a space, a volume for shelter using materials which are, mostly cement, concrete, steel, which come from outside. The masons of which also, are specialists which are coming from far away from the village, who come there, build this piece and go away. And these kind of houses have been extremely unsuccessful because architecture here has not been looked at as a meta-discipline. when you look at architecture as a meta discipline, you will consider that the house is not just the building. The house is the entire resource catchment area which provides for the materials and the knowledge skills to build the house. So what happens in the traditional rural architecture is that they conserve the forests, they manage the forest sensibly so that they can get their wood, they can get their soil, they can get their water for food as well as for house building.
Okay.
So one has to also know farming if one has to know architecture. One has to also know how to cut wood, or has to have the knowledge of botany and identify taxonomy of trees if one has to build a house.
Okay.
One has to know how to work as a team. So it needs so many different disciplines. One has to know how to take care of the biodiversity, about also the microorganisms which would affect the house. So some knowledge of the chemistry of things, the biology of things, and a house also then it's a social kind of enterprise as well, because the houses are not built by a specialist team which will come build the house and go away. But most of the houses even today, like 60 to 70% of houses in the world are built by cooperative building by people themselves, without any agency and specialists from outside. So the community comes together, builds the house, and what they get in return is a big party, that is free food and alcohol, wherever it is customary. So in architecture, what we get to learn from this is that one has to be aware of and be able to apply skills like a music composer, like a person who kind of conducts, actually a conductor of an orchestra, where someone may play a certain instrument, someone may play another, someone may play percussion, someone may play rhythm. The conductor has to be able to put everyone in space and time so that it makes music. That picture is there with the architect, and nobody else, can visualize that completely. For the construction, for the maintenance, for the kind of usage which it will have, the usage patterns by the people. In fact, even providing for expansion in the future, where one has to design a place in such a way that they know that tomorrow, if this has to be expanded, how can we build something which will provide for that expansion? So someone has to be aware of even some knowledge of demographics, some knowledge of market research to be able to be a good architect.
Tell me, Malak, if metadiscipline is such an important thing, when one is learning the discipline, and I'm calling it any discipline. It could be architecture, it could be even your learning starting from schools. This concept of metadiscipline is not there in any of our institutions today.
True.
How do you kind of grow them? How do you kind of get them into the institutions? Because you're also a teacher.
True. And so I have actually worked on this with so many of my students, and that is why it has succeeded in making many of my students extremely successful practitioners in the same field. The idea is to, first and foremost, it's very important to have a very, very aware kind of student, to have a culture in education where everything which is contemporary is relevant. It may directly or indirectly affect your discipline, but all the ongoings have to be assimilated in your thinking. So one spoke of architecture as a as in fact just as a incidental field which helps housing, but the focus was on everything else which creates the need for housing. So one spoke of the political dimensions, the economic scenario in the country, the history of all these which has affected, for example, migration creates the need for housing in cities. And even still the houses in the cities are, built by the most of the houses are built by people themselves. No one is actually providing housing. It's an amazing thing that in city like Bombay, actually 50% of the building stock, which is built, as buildings, is lying vacant because they are investments and nobody is staying in that. And whereas 70% of the housing which is actually being built for, low income housing is actually built by enterprises which are not through any architecture or kind of, government department. So there it becomes very important to sensitize the students to various factors which are affecting the architecture which they see around.
Okay.
So for them to get involved in the aspects like politics, cultural issues, and through contemporary events, also having a historical perspective is very, very important. So always to place architecture or your field in the context of a larger matrix, becomes very important to generate, to cultivate a kind of systems thinking approach, so that they look at their field as only one part of this system rather than it as something which generates other systems, but also being influenced by other systems. So this is how one actually tells them a story and invokes role play from architects as who are you in this entire story, which is playing out around us, both in space and time. Once one places oneself in that story, then the student gets initiative, gets a sense of responsibility, that our acts actually are going to have the potential of changing things and affecting things. And one of the very important kind of stimuli I give is that I tell my own story, because if I have been able to affect some kind of dimensions of practice, then it is because of this kind of approach, and that immediately clicks to the students.
So what kind of methodologies do you use? Because the traditional classroom, sometimes restricts your imagination. So what kind of methodologies and tools do you use to contextualize this awareness of the context?
Right. So very interestingly, one of the interesting things which I have been doing, and I'm going to share that, is so I connect the architecture or the need for making shelter to other basic needs like food and clothing. So we actually encourage our students to cook, to source materials, seasonal materials, to cook seasonal dishes, and to explain the efficiency of why, for example, a sarson ka saag and makai ki roti tastes so wonderful and you get it in good quality in the particular winter season. So they have to then, draw out the entire matrix of that it grows in, it is harvested in winter and it is good for giving, nutrition but heat also in the body. And where is it grown? What kind of soil is required? Now, then the way of cooking is like a chemistry of, mixing materials when you are constructing, because you need to understand the chemistry of and the bonding of materials. So cooking is very much like that. Then where a particular, so you may live in Bombay, but if you have apple a day and keeps the doctor away, it doesn't make sense, because apple grows in certain particular climates. So the geographical aspect of sourcing of a material becomes very important in architecture as well. So examples like these. So firstly, involving them, then giving them examples of how people are dressed in, hot climates. So look at the buildings then. And then look at how people are dressed in the cold climates, and then look at the building. So you will clearly see how the size of openings differs. So here's another kind of thing. Then getting them aware to the cultural aspects of how people as a group really, approach life, and I always teach it through analogies in other fields which are simpler to understand. So that then they can apply the lesson into architecture. This is one thing. The other thing is that, almost all of us are migrants, very few of us are really, the original kind of sons of the soil here in Bombay. So I make them go to their native places wherever they are from and study the architecture over there. So that immediately, connects them to a kind of landscape, physical and cultural, which they have not actually been in touch with for, most of their lives. And one anecdote is very interesting kind of thing happened is that this girl, and what we do is we make each of them host all of us. So if there are, say, 15 students, so 14 of us will go to this 15th person's house, his family will host, and we will eat that food, stay there for a few days, document that architecture. So all 14 of us have learned something from that region.
Okay.
And then we repeat this kind of thing. So an interesting, thing happened where when we went to a person's village, we actually, we were looking at the houses around, and we saw this house near her house, and we said that we should do this. This is an old house. So she said that this is my great grand uncle's house, and I have never been there. So because of our study, it has not just actually given them lessons in architecture, but it has also created extremely strong kind of social and community bonds through these lessons. And today these architects are successful practitioners, and they often tell their stories that their inspiration and journey began then. When the studying kind of exercises connected them to their roots. So this is, another way. There are other ways also where I get them to construct, come on my sites and actually work hands-on. So there again they realize that what is the difference between drawing a wall and building a wall. And then who are the people who actually build the wall, and therefore how can we design so that the building process is more healthy and in a way less harmful to the people who make these buildings, and also easier. So all these are some of the methodologies which I have used to make them open to this meta discipline.
Oh, fantastic. You are also keen believer, Malaksingh Ji, the importance of local jobs, local economy and local environment. Can you really give me an example of how you kind of achieved it in a project so that we can take key examples to apply it in other businesses also?
One is, there are so many things. Broadly you can talk about the environment as, the physical environment, where you call it nature and, natural resources, the wind, the water, the land. Then the other is the socio-cultural environment. Now both are equally important, and very often resources or nature has been looked through the socio-cultural environment. So we always approach nature through people and the way they look at nature. What we have done in any classical example, we have a project right now which is going on in Wada in the Palghar district near Bombay, north of Bombay.
Okay.
And the work is still going on over there in this lockdown. Because all the workers are the local workers. Now look at the dimensions here. They are not affected by the pandemic, by the lockdown. They are working over there. The person who is building his house is not suffering a loss because they are working over there. Of course, needless to say that the house has been designed only based on the knowledge which these local people have and the materials which we can procure from right around that building. So the materials are local, the cost to the client is less, the cost to the environment is less because there's less pollution in transporting this material. Thirdly, the cost, to the client is less because the people are also local, and there is now in a situation like this, there has been no stoppage of work. Further, once so this is what is happening is this is taking care of physical environment, which is nature. So we are not polluting at the same time as the cultural environment because the people then have contributed to this house. They have gotten out of it. They have got their kind of sustenance out of it. So there is a relation which is already stuck between local people and this person who is building his house there. So there is a cultural environment, social environment, which we are already kind of nurturing there. So this philosophy, it could be applicable to most of, the fields where once we have the people as a very, very important, factor in our strategy, for whatever product or process which we are planning, then the chances of success become very, very high. I'm sitting right now through the pandemic, and I have 3 projects which are going on full swing, and in all parts of the country. So it's because the people are local and because we are able to instruct them from here because the knowledge they already have. We are only, fine tuning it with our kind of expertise. We are not teaching them something new. And it is giving great value to the client, not just in the process, but also in the product, because it is that way a more, therefore it is a more sustainable, eco-friendly product when the people also benefit from it.
The other thing that you always stayed away from is you have not, been a prey to consumerism. You basically have avoided the brunt of commercialism in your own career. How do you guard these life principles yet be so successful in a career like yours?
Well, I think, like they say that, virtue is a habit. If you have done this for so many years, it is very difficult to change that. In fact, sometimes we are also human and we do sometimes get tempted by this kind of success and the kind of commercial, possibilities it brings in front of us. But then because the environment we have created around us is so strong and our team and the people who are associated with this are so kind of immersed in this process, it never lets us, forget who we are and, what has gotten us here. So I think it is largely social. It is about, like I said, people are at the center of this process also. I invest in people. The trust and the kind of, relationship which I have with people actually helps me to not kind of stray from my core principles. Because I believe that, we are human and it is very easy to, get tempted because you have struggled all your life and you have kind of kept away from certain things. But then when it comes to you on a platter, you feel that why not? I've earned this kind of thing. But then your family, your team, and everyone's around you. In fact, your younger teammates, even my little 7-year-old daughter, will sometime correct me, and say that, but Papa, you're not supposed to do this because this is how it's supposed to be done. So I feel extremely safe in the environment which I have created myself. It actually, in return, it takes care of me, but one cannot be complacent because that environment can change very quickly. And therefore, it is a combination, I feel, where one has to be, continue to practice very strictly what one believes in. At the same time, create the environments which will nurture your own, the culture of your own kind of beliefs and practice. that helps me to really, stay on the path which I have been working on.
How do you protect yourself from getting into a fixed mindset versus adopting modern, technology, in this kind of a mindset? How do you kind of protect yourself from that thinking?
Yes, see, actually, it is not very difficult because you are constantly probed by this kind of dilemma. And survival teaches you, because if one is very, very rigid and kind of fixed on ideas and methods, then one will not survive in today's world, which is changing so fast. And one has moved from, over time, one has moved from association or attachment with the product to attachment with the process, because there will never be a perfect product. This one has come to understand. But the process can always be perfect, because there are, like I said, that the product depends on so many factors which are dynamic and changing very fast in the world today. A tribal person, I will give you an example. When I have to convince a tribal person to use, say, build in mud or something like that, when he wants a cement house, I have to open my, iPad or iPhone and show him videos of the work I have done. So the person gets it, So technology has its role. Technology should not be the purpose.
Okay.
Technology should be the means for what you want to achieve. So that differentiation is something which one has to constantly be aware of. Having said that, the means also have to justify, their own kind of sustenance. What you can do with a high-tech product should be justified with what, it actually achieves, rather than just its potential. So one is very conscious of this thing, and it is difficult to survive without adapting. So therefore, it is always, this is a time of, hybridization of kind of synthetic, in a way, culture, where various thought processes also have to mix. Actually, operating processes also have to collaborate, and the products also have to be kind of hybrid, so that they can answer or kind of satisfy a very fast changing world.
I am picking up on something you said just now. You talked about you can get your process right, product, can, have some issues. Give me some examples of what process have you put in place to ensure that the philosophy and the ethos of what you do, because you are a believer in work ethic. And what processes have you put in place to ensure that the final product, the outcome is something that will, most often be, good? What process have you put in place, and can you walk us through some of the things that for you it is non-negotiable?
Correct. So classic example is, the field I'm associated with is generally known as eco-friendly architecture.
Okay.
And in this, an imagery is generally developed that eco-friendly architecture means mud buildings, means using, less concrete, steel, etc., etc. But this is an identification with the imagery of the product. It is not really the understanding of the process. So classically, one example which we are right now doing is we had an inquiry to basically break a 25-year-old RCC house and make a mud building, of course with some more additional requirements. So, we actually worked very hard to convince the client that we can retrofit and adapt your existing RCC building to add on whatever we may have to add with mud or with wood or eco-friendly, conventionally called eco-friendly materials, and to complete your house, rather than break this RCC building and make a completely new mud building. Because we said that it is important to understand the process of being good to the environment rather than just being focused on the product. This way, we will be saving all the materials, energy which has been invested in this for so many years. It has a life of maybe 40, 50 years more left. So we can retain that, we can retrofit it, adapt it, so that when you add on the new, building or around it or on top of it, that can be with the natural materials. So this is a very, very kind of good example of process versus, I would have been less eco-friendly if I had broken that, dumped at RCC somewhere, and then that would have polluted, as a landfill. It is very toxic for the land. And I would have had a wonderful looking mud house. And, it makes no difference to me. I make the same money. And the client will think he's got a very eco-friendly product. But the process is wrong. So thereby, this is one very important aspect of seeing what you have and the systems which are in place. And the important thing is how you can use the systems which are in place to get the most out of it rather than to replace them and make something which is considered as ideal, associated with the image. Another example is that, when we have to say give a certain product to a client, we put a rider there. We say that, we will make this, for example, we will make this house with wood or whatever materials. But you have to concede that the finish of the materials and this thing, without obviously compromising on the durability and the quality, but the finish or the characteristic of this product will have the character of the local working people who will be doing this. If I have to do a wood building, of course, the wood mason from wood carpenter from Pune will not be as skilled in the finished joinery, etc., as someone from Mangalore or from Karnataka or from the coastal side, because the culture of woodworking is much more evolved there, and the details and finishing are much better. But if you are making it here, we will be working with a local person, and we will, make sure that the finish is good. It may not be as superior as what you may have got from that kind of carpenter, but this is a part of our work ethics that we will try to give the work to a local person. Now, this is where when we discuss these things, we counsel the client with these things. It again brings out the aspect of the process as being more important than the product. Because what we are trying to do is not just make buildings or products for people to see, appreciate, get inspired, and then give us more work. But we are doing these things as a larger kind of aim to generate a culture of doing sensible architecture, of doing more, environment and people-friendly architecture. And that will only happen when we can involve the local people in this. Through one house, we want to affect the choice of thousands of people who see that house. And if there is no stakeholdership within that house building process from the local people, then that will never inspire them to take up similar construction. So this process is made explicit to the clients, to the users, as we develop, the house. And very often we have succeeded in doing this. We have another example is when we are using timber in some buildings. So we request the client, without having any financial kind of implications, we request them that, see, we are buying the timber from the forest department, indirectly, of course, through the dealer, but it has come from its legal timber. So when we are using so much timber, the forest department is maintaining it. They are taking care of the forest. They are regenerating the forest. But it is also our responsibility that if we are using, say, for example, 40 trees for our house, and we have the land, would you please like to make a commitment to us that you will plant 40 trees, which are conducive to your land and to that area of the native species? So we also put these kind of, commitments on the client, and they mostly agree. We have rarely had a possibility where it's completely impossible or impractical. So the process is again made more important to them, than the product. And then when they go and inhabit these places, they actually live extensions of those processes rather than just enjoying the product. Because then they tell stories to their, family members, to the visitors, etc., about the house, and we feel so proud that these clients did not have that kind of awareness when they had come to us to build the house. They just wanted an eco-friendly house. But today, when we see it has probably changed their outlook and their way of life, and that is where we pass on the thinking of our process to the clients.
Great. One question, that comes to my mind as I hear you speak. How do you, make it a movement rather than, this whole eco-friendly culture and this whole thinking around eco-friendliness? How do you make it a movement rather than it being a niche interest? What do you think we should do to make it happen?
I realized this thing way back, when I started off. In fact, when I was a student, and I found it very difficult to practice this even as a student. A lot of practical questions were put to me because there was very less precedent in our city and state actually, and in most parts of India. Barring the south, there was not much precedent of this kind of work. So I always had this question. So the first way I found to do this is, as soon as I was able to make my first building, which was in Bombay itself, and it got fairly a fair amount of success and publicity. I immediately took the opportunity to start teaching in an architecture college. Because for me that was very important to use the education institutional infrastructure to spread this work, and that has been a very big source of creating awareness, giving an alternative to the students in the architecture fraternity. Although it took a fair amount of time, it may be almost 15 years that colleges are now, architecture colleges are now really, using this as taking this as an official kind of subject in their schools. Also, the overall awareness, in the general schooling, right from primary, secondary, of environment has helped to get out students, in the professional colleges where they're already aware. The media is also helping a lot today, where there are so many awareness campaigns. There's media coverage reporting on environmental issues. What really, gives a kind of stimulus or a catalyst, I must say, to this kind of overall awareness amongst the population is to see a successful practice. So my practice is also aimed at becoming an example. I mean, very often I have taken projects just so that I can do them for people to see that this is possible. And so therefore one is the practice, which is out in the, open kind of a forum, a platform for people to see and get inspired by. I've learned from so many architects that they actually use my website for doing case studies, when they are going to design such buildings. Then the other thing, like I said, through the education institutions, and then through podcasts and interviews like this one itself, I'm making myself open and available to a larger audience very deliberately. In fact, participating in this podcast was also part of the same kind of intention, that if there is a different kind of audience which may be exposed to this, and it may spread the kind of approach in a different kind of discipline, then I think that will contribute to the larger purpose of what you're saying, how to make this a movement. I also think that overall, in health, in the fields of health and education, there are these movements which are happening, parallel movements on sustainable kind of practices. So they all actually then meet at crossroads, because they're all talking about the same thing, essentially. Also, the social media platforms really help today to put this kind of message across. It was not there in our times, maybe 20 years back, but today there are various platforms, and I'm now becoming more and more open and trying to respond to any such platform which comes forth, and try to kind of spread this work.
How do you see the future of architecture in cities to sustain this whole natural environment and reduce carbon emissions? How do you see it over the next 50 years? What should be done to decongest these cities, and what kind of approach do you believe needs to be taken?
So I think that process of decongesting cities has already begun. Okay. You can clearly see the New Bombay experiment, which started maybe 15, 20 years back. And you see how many, of the, commercial enterprises have come up on that side. Housing has been taken care of to a great extent. You are going to have an airport, international airport there very soon. So Bombay, actually the migrant population coming in Bombay has actually reduced. People are now increasingly seeing that the density of cities is a problem. This recent pandemic itself was a big message. I, for one, have been, I don't know if I must really be happy about this or not, but I got a lot of inquiries and calls to make houses outside the city during the lockdown period. But of course, that is only for people who can afford these kind of second homes, etc. But on the whole, the observation is that cities are not growing as much as villages and small towns are becoming urbanized. So the larger urbanization is happening in small towns. There is a lot of work to be done, to calibrate how this urbanization is going to happen, should happen. I mean, just the day before yesterday, I was talking to the PWD engineers of Maharashtra through a workshop training program organized by IIT Mumbai. And they were extremely open to the kind of work which, I was suggesting can be done in rural areas. Because if we can, give and introduce good practices in the rural and small town areas, those are tomorrow's cities. The cities have, to a great extent, the big cities have actually stagnated. Cities like Bombay, know that we have gone way beyond our bearing capacity. So there are some very, very concerted efforts by environmentalists. The recent, campaign in the RA forest area against that metro shed is a clear example. Some of my students are part of that campaign. And the present government actually revoked that order and reserved that thing as a forest. So awareness is growing. In India, I think a lot of work has to be done in smaller tier 2 cities, towns, and villages, because that is where I feel that they actually copy the urban or the city model and try to become like another Mumbai, or Mumbai tries to become Shanghai. That kind of a aspiration is there. So what is very important, and which is also where my larger focus of my practice is, in small towns and rural areas, to create the right kind of aspiration models. So that is one of the small ways in which I am trying to do this. But overall, I think there is much needed to be done at the institutional, at the government institutional level, to promote sensible architecture. I must say that some governments are doing it, but much more needs to be done, and the fraternity of architects should actually, take some initiative and push in the right direction.
Great. Thanks a lot. It was absolutely fantastic talking to you. The concept of sensible architecture, the need for the environment-friendly materials that we should use, and I love the idea of the meta-discipline. I think I'm going to dwell on it a lot more. You really opened my mind through this conversation. Thank you for your time, Malaksingh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swaminathan. It was a pleasure talking to you, and wishing your podcast series all the best.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your time.